Hello everyone. Today I am going to tell a story. The story named The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Many years ago, there was a village in a valley. On a high mountain close by, there was a castle. The people of the village had never been to the castle, but they had heard that a sorcerer lived there. One autumn, when the crops were ready for harvest, the villagers woke to find all their fields empty. The crops had disappeared as if by magic. There was no vegetables, fruits, nuts, berries, or grains anywhere. The fields were bare. The farmers were puzzled. That winter, that winter was a hard time for all. Somehow the villagers lived on the food they had stored. In the spring, the farmers planted their crops. The plants grew well, and in autumn they were ready to be harvested. This time the men stood guard over their crops. But one morning they found all their crops were gone. Their fields were bare. "It must be magic!" cried the villagers. "What shall we eat this winter?" asked the women, and the frightened and hungry children cried. James, a brave young boy, shouted, I will find out has done this." Before anyone could stop him, he started off up the steep mountain. James walked till dusk. When he was near the castle, suddenly a tall man with a long beard appeared on the path. The man was wearing a long, sparkling, shiny coat and carrying a long stick. On his head was a tall, pointed cap. A large black raven was perched on his arm. James was frightened, but he thought, I must be brave. What will the people of my village think if I run home now? "There is no food in my village," said James to the tall man. "I am tired and hungry. Will you give me some food if I work for you?" The sorcerer looked carefully at James. "Work? Ah," he said. "I don't need an apprentice. Follow me." The raven flew to James and perched on his shoulder. The sorcerer led James into the castle. They passed along dark corridors, and James saw some doors ajar, some rooms were filled with treasures, and others with fruit and vegetables. "These must be from our fields," gasped James. "Yes," said the raven. "This wicked sorcerer takes everything. If you can learn his secrets, you can save your people. You can also save me. I'm a prisoner here." They came to a large hall. In the hall there was a long table, and on it were bottles and jars, bakers and tubes. Strange colored liquids bubbled and boiled in large pots on the stone floor. James' eyes opened wide. "This must be where he works his magic," thought James. Over the next few days, James worked very hard. The sorcerer gave him no free time. He said, "Stir the mixture in these large pots and make sure the biggest pot is full at all times. So James stirred and stirred. He carried buckets of water all day long and filled the big pot. One day, James started to leave, but suddenly, in front of him, a wall appeared by magic. His way was blocked. If I learn the sorcerer's magic spells, said James to himself, I can leave the castle. The sorcerer used many magic spells, but when James was near, the sorcerer spoke softly. James could never hear what he was saying. One day James was so tired that he fell asleep behind some large pots in the hall. The sorcerer did not see him. A loud crash woke James. The sorcerer had dropped a jar on the floor. Then James heard him use a magic spell. James was surprised to see a broom fly through the air and sweep up the broken jar. The next day, when the sorcerer was out, James repeated the magic spell. The broom swept the whole hall. James was so pleased. James ordered the broom to fetch water for the pot, and the broom did that too. But the broom did not stop. It carried the buckets of water and swept the floor as it went. Soon the large pot was full, and there was water all over the floor. James didn't know how to stop the broom. The water was now flowing out of the door and filling the castle. Then the sorcerer returned. He was so angry. He shouted some magic words. The broom stopped fetching water. Beat him, screamed the sorcerer. And the broom began to beat James. But James now knew the magic words. So he told the broom to stop. As the sorcerer came near, James said, Now I know your magic spells. I shall leave the castle. The sorcerer said the magic words and turned into a huge bear. The bear was going to attack James, and he was frightened. Then James repeated the magic words and thought about a snake. In a flash, James turned into a snake. Now he could attack the bear. He hissed and moved close. But when the snake came near, the bear turned into an eagle and chopped down the snake. Then James turned himself into a cat and attacked the eagle. This battle went on, and all the while the raven sat on the top of a high window and watched. The cat chased the eagle and tore some of its feathers. The eagle flew out of the window and away up into the mountains. James then turned himself back into a boy. Quick, he said to the raven, let us get out of here. And he ran down the mountain to his village, with the raven flowing. After that, James was able to use his magic to help the villagers. They never had any trouble from the sorcerer again. Thank you, everyone.